For more than 30 years, Mary Austin lived at Garden Lodge, Freddie Mercury's legendary London home. She thought she knew every corner, every creaking stair, every room where Freddie had once laughed, played piano, or thrown one of his infamous parties. But she was wrong. Even Jim Hutton, Freddie's partner of 7 years, had never stumbled across it. Peter Freestone, his loyal assistant who managed his daily life down to the smallest details, also had no clue. For decades, the truth sat silently behind a wall, sealed so cleverly that no visitor, no cleaner, and no bandmate ever suspected. It wasn't until 2024, during a routine architectural survey, that the secret was revealed. A hidden chamber, deliberately constructed, that contained Freddie Mercury's most personal treasures. Letters, photographs, unreleased songs, private recordings, and unfinished works that would shock the world. This wasn't just a dusty storage closet. It was a carefully engineered sanctuary, built to preserve Freddie's essence long after he was gone. And its discovery, more than 30 years after his death, would rewrite everything we thought we knew about him. The story begins in 1980, when Freddie purchased Garden Lodge, a Georgian-style mansion tucked into Logan Place in Kensington. At first glance, it was elegant but ordinary, its famous green door standing out like a beacon in the otherwise quiet neighborhood. Freddie saw it as more than a home. It became a canvas. He filled the walls with saffron yellows and bold colors, designed a Japanese-style garden for moments of quiet reflection, built a mirrored dressing room where he could prepare himself like royalty before stepping into the public eye, and, of course, installed the piano room where timeless music would echo into the night. But what few people realized at the time was that Freddie's renovations weren't limited to what guests could see. Some alterations were invisible, hidden in the blueprints carefully tucked away. These weren't artistic flourishes, they were protective measures, and they would only reveal their purpose decades later. But even before that revelation, Freddie made one request that would define Garden Lodge for the next 3 decades. As Freddie's health declined in the early 1990s, he turned to Mary Austin, the woman he had once called the love of his life, even after their romantic relationship had shifted into friendship. To her, he entrusted not just his house, but his legacy. "Don't change a thing," he told her. "Keep the house as it is." Mary took those words as sacred. For more than 30 years, she preserved Garden Lodge exactly as Freddie left it. The same furniture, the same decorations, the same photographs. Even the sheets on his bed remained untouched. The house became a time capsule, frozen in 1991, a private museum of grief and love. There were entire rooms she barely entered, except to clean. Fans stood vigil outside the green door, leaving flowers and messages year after year. And Mary, resolute, carried the weight of Freddie's final wish. What she didn't know was that hidden behind a wall, within the very bedroom she had sworn to protect, Freddie had left something he hadn't told her about. It wasn't love or curiosity that revealed the secret. It was paperwork. In 2024, Garden Lodge was due for an insurance renewal, and as part of the process, the house required a thorough structural inspection. Architect Sarah Bentley, an expert in Victorian and Georgian homes, led the team. At first it was routine, measurements, sketches, evaluations. But then came the anomaly. The numbers didn't match. The second floor dimensions were off by 3 square meters. It wasn't just a sloppy record, it was deliberate. "Small discrepancies are normal in old houses," Bentley explained. But this was different. The walls were too thick. The ventilation didn't add up. It was as though someone had built a room inside the wall and erased it from the plans. Thermal imaging confirmed it. There was indeed a hollow space behind Freddie's bedroom wall. Mary was stunned. For 30 years, she had lived just meters away from a room she never knew existed. When she told Peter Freestone, he was speechless. When Brian May heard, he summed it up in one line: "I knew him for over 30 years, and he still manages to surprise us." But finding the room was only half the battle. The real question was, how do you get inside? The entry point wasn't obvious. The architects suspected it might be disguised in furniture. After careful searching, they realized the massive wardrobe in Freddie's bedroom wasn't just storage, it was a door. Its back panel blended seamlessly with the rest of the woodwork, camouflaged so perfectly that even Mary, who had dusted and polished it for years, never noticed the faint outline. Hidden hinges, a pressure-activated catch. Freddie had turned his closet into a gateway. When the panel was finally pressed, the door clicked. Slowly, it opened into darkness. Mary's heart raced as she stepped inside. What she saw stopped her cold. The chamber was small, 2 meters high, 3 meters wide, 2 meters deep, but immaculate. The walls were soundproofed. A tiny ventilation system hummed faintly. Special lamps filtered out UV rays, protecting whatever was stored there. The floor had humidity control beneath its carpet. This wasn't a random hiding place. It was a vault, designed by someone who understood preservation, and on the shelves, carefully arranged and protected, were hundreds of Freddie Mercury's most intimate possessions. Mary's first glance made her eyes well up. On the shelves were photographs she had never seen. Freddie as a boy in Zanzibar, young Farak Bulsara with his family, letters he had written but never sent, childhood mementos, fragments of a life that had never been public. Next were the musical treasures, handwritten lyrics, rough drafts of songs, early demo tapes. Among them, alternative versions of Bohemian Rhapsody with lyrics that didn't make the final cut. Early sketches of songs that would later become Queen classics. Entire recordings from sessions no one knew existed. For music historians, it was a treasure chest, and then came the personal letters. Notes to Mary from their romantic years, heartfelt lines to Jim Hutton that revealed tenderness few ever saw, drafts of letters to his parents where he expressed regret and longing. These weren't the flamboyant stage costumes or witty interviews fans knew. These were the words of a man who craved connection, who wrestled with family, love, and mortality. It was, in every sense, Freddie stripped bare. But the biggest mystery was not what was inside. It was why he had chosen to hide it so carefully. To understand, you have to go back to the late 80s. Freddie was already world famous, his every move stalked by tabloids. Rumors swirled around his health, his relationships, his music. Privacy was no longer an option. It was a battle. Peter Freestone remembered how, toward the end, Freddie became intensely protective of his inner world. Brian May added another layer. Freddie liked control. He wanted to shape how he was remembered, not leave it to chance. By sealing away these letters, recordings, and treasures, Freddie was keeping authorship over his own legacy. Mary offered yet another view. To her, the room wasn't just for the future, it was for Freddie himself, his sanctuary. A place where he could retreat into his past, read old letters, or surround himself with memories when his illness made the world unbearable. The fact that it was right next to his bedroom meant he could access it even when weak. In a way, the room wasn't just about hiding from the public. It was about holding himself together. And when it finally came to light, the discovery sparked a debate that shook the Mercury estate. It was, in every sense, Freddie stripped bare. But the biggest mystery was not what was inside. It was why he had chosen to hide it so carefully. Mary faced an impossible choice. Freddie had asked her not to change Garden Lodge. But what about a room he had never told her about? Brian May argued that Freddie wanted this to be found eventually. If he wanted it gone, he would have destroyed it. He left it behind for a reason. Roger Taylor disagreed. Freddie valued privacy above all. Some things were meant to remain personal. For months, Mary agonized. Finally, she made her decision. The most personal letters, the ones to family, to Jim, to herself, would remain private. But the materials of historical importance, the unreleased demos, the drafts, the letters with fellow musicians, would be preserved and studied. Some would be donated to museums. Others would be digitized for researchers. It was a compromise, respecting Freddie's privacy while allowing the world to benefit from his hidden genius. And when experts began examining the collection, they realized just how earth-shattering it was. It was, in every sense, Freddie stripped bare. But the biggest mystery was not what was inside. It was why he had chosen to hide it so carefully. Valuations put the collection at over $10 million. The alternate drafts of Bohemian Rhapsody alone were worth $3 million. The unreleased Queen demos? Another $5 million. But money was the least of it. Rolling Stone magazine called it the most important archaeological discovery in music history. Critics compared it to unearthing lost Beatles recordings. Music historians were stunned. The demos revealed how Queen's sound evolved, how Freddie experimented with structure, and how songs we thought we knew still had hidden lives. And then there was the never-heard-before song, Garden of Dreams. Written in Freddie's final years, it explored life, death, and rebirth with raw vulnerability. When it was digitized and quietly released on streaming platforms, it went viral within days. Millions listened, and for a brief moment it felt like Freddie had returned. Exhibitions opened worldwide. The V&A Museum in London launched Freddie Mercury Hidden Treasures, drawing record crowds. The MoMA in New York focused on his artwork and sketches. Virtual reality experiences allowed fans to walk through the secret room exactly as it was. Universities created research chairs to study. Freddie's creative process and fans, always the heartbeat of Queen, raised. Millions to help preserve the collection for future generations. Freddie's hidden room had become not just a discovery, but a cultural earthquake. Garden Lodge is no longer just a house. It is a monument, a place where Freddie's spirit lingers, not in ghostly shadows, but in carefully stored photographs and scribbled notes, in cassette tapes humming with melodies the world never heard. The secret room is more than a vault. It's a message. Freddie may have hidden it, but he didn't erase it. He trusted the future to find him, to understand him, to preserve him. Even in death, Freddie Mercury still has the power to surprise us, and maybe that was his plan all along.